What happened the moment you saw someone's true nature? I never thought I'd see someone's true nature revealed so suddenly, so violently, that it would split my life into before and after. But that night changed everything. It started innocently enough. My sister Claire had invited me over for dinner at her house. She wanted me to finally meet her boyfriend, Jason. She'd been talking about him for months, and while she sounded happy, something in her tone always carried hesitation. A pause before she described him, like she was editing her own words. Still, when she opened the door that night, smiling too brightly, I told myself I was overthinking. "Come in, Sam," she said, hugging me a little too tightly. "He's already here. I've been cooking all afternoon." The house smelled like roasted garlic and herbs, comforting, almost distracting. Jason was sitting at the table when I walked in, broad-shouldered. Sharp suit jacket draped over the chair. An easy smile plastered across his face. He stood quickly and reached out his hand, gripping mine firmly. Too firmly. "Finally," he said, looking me dead in the eye. "Claire talks about you all the time. Little brother, right?" "Right," I answered, forcing a smile. His grip lingered a second too long before he released me. On the surface, he was charming, attentive. He complimented Claire's cooking, asked about my work, laughed at all the right places. But under it, there was something in the way he watched her. Like his eyes never left her, even when he was pretending to focus on me. Halfway through dinner, she dropped her fork. Just a small accident, but she froze, staring at him like she'd committed some crime. Jason leaned over, picked it up for her, and smiled. "Clumsy girl," he whispered. It was soft, playful on the surface. But Claire's face flushed, and she didn't look up. That was the first crack. After dinner, Jason offered to pour drinks. Claire and I sat in the living room. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "You okay?" I asked. She forced a laugh. "Of course. Why wouldn't I be?" But her hands twisted in her lap. Her nails dug into her skin like she was holding something back. Before I could press, Jason returned with glasses of wine. He handed one to me, one to Claire. His hand lingered on her shoulder, and when she flinched just barely, my stomach dropped. Something was wrong. The night went on, conversations drifting between small talk and stories. But I couldn't stop watching. I saw the way Claire avoided certain words, how she checked his face before finishing a sentence, how Jason's hand rested possessively on the back of her chair. At one point, she mentioned a trip she wanted to take with some friends. Jason chuckled, shaking his head. "Why would you need to go anywhere without me?" he asked. It sounded like a joke, but her smile didn't reach her eyes, and mine faded altogether. By the time dessert was finished, I couldn't shake the unease coiling in my chest. Then it happened. Claire went into the kitchen to get more coffee. I excused myself, following her under the pretense of helping. When I stepped inside, she was standing by the sink, gripping the counter so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "Claire," I whispered, "tell me the truth. What's going on?" She shook her head fast. Too fast. "Nothing." "Sam, don't, please." I reached for her arm gently. That's when Jason appeared in the doorway. Silent, watching. His smile was gone. His eyes were flat, cold. "What's going on here?" he asked. His voice was calm, but I felt it vibrate in my chest. Claire jerked back, slipping past him quickly, almost like she was afraid to be between us. "Nothing," she said quickly. "We're just talking." Jason stepped closer to me. Too close. I could smell the wine on his breath. He lowered his voice so only I could hear. "You don't come into another man's house and whisper to his woman," he said. My jaw clenched. "She's my sister." "Then act like it," he hissed, before plastering that fake smile back on and returning to the living room like nothing happened. I stood frozen in the kitchen, heart pounding. For the first time, I realized the truth. The charm was just a mask. And behind it, Jason was something else entirely. Something dangerous. And when I returned to the living room, Claire was sitting perfectly still, her eyes glued to her glass, her smile stretched too tight. That's when I knew I had just seen his true nature. and it terrified me. But I had no idea how far he'd go to make sure no one else ever saw it. I couldn't sleep that night. Long after leaving Claire's house, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. The way she flinched. The fork. The whisper in the kitchen. Jason's hand gripping my own too tightly. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that my protective instincts were exaggerating. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next morning, I called her. Straight to voicemail. By afternoon, I drove back to her place, uninvited. I told myself it was just to check on her, to ease my paranoia. But when I parked down the street, I saw Jason's car in the driveway. The blinds were closed, lights dim, though it was barely past noon. I rang the bell. Waited. No answer. My stomach churned. I was about to knock again when the curtain moved. Just a fraction. Claire's face appeared, pale, eyes wide. She didn't open the door, just stared. Then Jason appeared behind her, his arm curling around her shoulders like a noose. The curtain dropped. I stood there, my pulse hammering. Seconds later, Jason opened the door himself, smiling like we were old friends. "Sam," he said warmly. "This is a surprise." "Yeah," I forced a smile. "Just thought I'd check in." Claire appeared behind him, smiling too brightly, like she was trying to reassure me. Or herself. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "We were just resting. Long night." Jason's hand squeezed her shoulder. She winced, almost imperceptibly. My chest tightened. "You should come back another time," Jason said smoothly. "She needs her rest." The way he emphasized it sent a chill through me. He closed the door before I could respond. That was the moment I knew this wasn't paranoia. Claire was in trouble. I didn't sleep for days. I tried calling again, no answer. Texts went unread. Then, on Thursday night, she showed up at my apartment. Alone. Her face was pale, and she had sunglasses on, though it was nearly dark outside. When she took them off, my stomach dropped. A dark bruise stretched across her cheekbone, fading into purple near her eye. "Jesus, Claire." She raised a finger to her lips, glancing over her shoulder like she expected him to materialize. "He hit you?" I asked. My voice shook. Her silence was the answer. "He said it was my fault," she whispered. "I made him jealous. I shouldn't have." "Stop." I grabbed her hands. They were trembling. "This isn't your fault. Do you hear me?" "Not once, not ever." Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "You don't understand. If you push him, it gets worse. He knows things. About me. About Mom. He said if I ever left." She cut herself off, clamping her mouth shut. "What does he know?" I pressed. She pulled back, folding into herself. "I can't tell you. He'd know. He always knows." That night, she stayed on my couch. Every sound outside made her flinch. She barely slept, just curled under the blanket like a child. I sat in the chair across from her, wide awake, fury boiling inside me. I wanted to call the police, but she begged me not to. "He'll make it worse," she whispered. "Please, Sam, just—" "Not yet." So I didn't. Against every instinct, I kept quiet. 2 days later, Jason showed up at my door. I opened it to find him standing there with that same charming smile, holding a bottle of wine. "Sam," he said. "Heard Claire crashed here. Thought I'd come by and thank you for looking out for her." My jaw tightened. "She's not here." "Of course she is." He leaned against the doorframe casually, though his eyes were sharp. "She tells me everything." Behind me, Claire stepped into view. I didn't want her to, but she did. Her face was pale, makeup barely concealing the bruise. "Jason," she whispered. "Baby," he cooed, reaching out his hand. "Come on, let's not fight in front of your brother." She froze, trembled, then slowly she moved toward him. I tried to stop her, but she gave me a desperate, pleading look that made my chest ache. It said, "Not now, please." So I let her go. Jason slipped his arm around her, pulling her close, kissing the top of her head like a prize he owned. Then he looked at me, his eyes glinting with something dark. "Your family," he said softly. "So I'll forgive the intrusion, but don't interfere again. It's not healthy for her. Understand?" He didn't wait for my answer. He just walked her out, closing the door behind him. I stood there in the silence of my apartment, fists shaking, heart pounding. That was the night I realized Jason wasn't just controlling her. He was breaking her down piece by piece. And I had just let him take her back, but it wouldn't happen again. I swore it. The next time, I wasn't going to let him walk away with her. And deep down, I knew the next time was coming soon. I barely remember that weekend. I drifted through it like a ghost, snapping at coworkers, pacing the apartment at night, staring at my phone hoping she'd call. She didn't. By Monday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to her house, parked a block away, waited. Hours passed. Curtains stayed shut. At one point, the front door opened. Jason stepped out, dragging a trash bag to the bin. He looked normal, like a man taking out the garbage on a sunny day. But then I saw Claire. She stood in the doorway, hugging herself, staring at the ground. Not once did she look at me. Not once did she smile. When Jason turned, his hand brushed the small of her back, gentle to anyone else's eyes. But her shoulders flinched like he jabbed a knife into her spine. That was all I needed. I couldn't watch anymore. That night, I called her again. Miraculously, she picked up. "Claire?" Her voice was small. "Sam, you can't keep calling. You need to leave him." My throat felt tight. "Come stay with me, just please. Don't go back there." There was silence on the line. Then softly, "He knows, Sam." "Knows what?" Her breathing quickened. "About Mom, about what happened. If I leave, he'll tell." "Tell who?" "Claire, what are you talking about?" But she just whispered, "I can't," and hung up. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the deadline. My chest felt like it was caving in. The next day, I found out what she meant. An envelope slid under my door while I was at work. Inside, there was a single photograph. Old, faded, from the day of Mum's accident. I hadn't seen that picture in years. Claire was only 13 at the time, standing in the hospital parking lot, staring at the ground. Scrawled across the back of the photo in black marker, "Do you want the world to know what really happened?" My blood ran cold. Jason knew. He knew about that day. About the secret we'd both buried so deep I'd almost convinced myself it was gone. But it wasn't. And now, he was using it against her. That night, I called her again. This time, I didn't waste words. "What did you tell him?" She gasped softly. "Sam, please don't. He's threatening you with it, isn't he?" Her silence confirmed everything. "Claire, if he tells, we'll deal with it. We can't let him." Her voice broke. "You don't understand. If it comes out, it'll destroy everything. My job. My life. Yours too." I gripped the phone tighter. "Then he wins. Every single time he wins. Is that what you want?" She sobbed softly. "I just want it to stop." That was when I made the decision. If the law couldn't help her, if the fear of that secret kept her trapped, then I'd find another way. A permanent way. The thought terrified me, but not as much as the idea of losing her. 2 nights later, it happened. I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Just one word. "Help." I bolted upright, heart pounding, grabbed my keys, and drove faster than I ever had in my life. Her street was dark when I pulled up. Too dark. The house was silent, lights off, blinds closed tight. I sprinted to the door and pounded on it. No answer. I was about to kick it in when I heard a muffled cry from inside. "Claire!" A shadow passed the window. Then the door unlocked. She stood there, hair tangled, face streaked with tears. A red mark bloomed across her cheek. Before I could say a word, Jason appeared behind her. Calm. Smiling. "Well," he said, the knight in shining armor. "Took you long enough." I shoved past Claire, stepping inside. "Touch her again, and I swear to God." Jason laughed. Not loud, Just a low, chilling chuckle. You think you can protect her? You don't even know half of it. Then tell me, I spat. He leaned close. So close I could smell the alcohol on his breath. Ask your sister what really happened the night your mother died. I froze. My chest went hollow. Claire's eyes darted to the ground. Jason smirked. Oh, she hasn't told you. You looked back at her. Poor Sam, always in the dark. I turned to her. Claire, what is he talking about? Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. Jason chuckled again, stepping back. See? She knows I own her. She knows I could ruin her with a single sentence. The rage boiled up inside me, hotter than anything I'd ever felt. My fists clenched. My vision blurred. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just about control anymore. Jason had weaponized our darkest secret. And unless I stopped him, he would use it to destroy us both. The night was about to end in violence. But I hadn't yet decided whose blood it would be. Jason's smirk burned into me, like he was daring me to move first. My fists clenched so tightly, my nails cut into my palms, but I didn't swing. Not yet. Claire, I said, my voice shaking. Tell me the truth. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Tears welled in her eyes, sliding down her cheeks. Jason stepped closer, his hand brushing against her arm possessively. She won't, he said softly. She can't, because if she does, then you'll see her the way I do. Broken. Guilty. That word. Guilty. It stabbed at something deep inside me. Claire wrenched free of his grip suddenly, her voice cracking. Stop it, Jason. Just stop. But he only grinned wider, feeding off her fear. I could tell him right now, he teased. Every little detail about the night your precious mother died. You think he'd still look at you the same? I stepped between them. My heart hammered so hard it drowned out every other sound. You're done here. Get out. Jason tilted his head, amused. Or what? You'll hit me? Call the cops? We both know she won't press charges. She's too scared of what I know. I wanted to kill him. Right there. But Claire grabbed my wrist, her grip trembling but desperate. Please, she whispered. Not like this. Her eyes were begging me. Not for his sake, but for mine. For us. Jason smirked again, then leaned close enough that his whisper brushed against my ear. You don't scare me, Sam. I own her. I own both of you. And until you accept that, you'll never be free. He pulled back, winked at Claire, and walked out the door like he had won. The silence he left behind was suffocating. I turned to her. Claire, what the hell is he talking about? Her shoulders slumped. She shook her head, covering her face with her hands. I never wanted you to know. Know what? My voice cracked. You have to tell me, please. She sank onto the couch, her whole body trembling. I knelt in front of her, gripping her hands gently. Finally, through broken sobs, she whispered, It wasn't an accident, Sam. I froze. My brain stuttered. What? That night, Mom's car going off the road. It wasn't just the rain. Her words caught in her throat. We were fighting. In the car. I was screaming at her. I grabbed the wheel for a second. Just for a second. But she lost control. And when it was over, her voice cracked completely. I stumbled back, numb. My ears rang. The room tilted. No, I whispered. No, Claire. That's not true. The police said they didn't know. She cried. Nobody knew. I told them she swerved because of the rain. But Jason found out. He said if I ever left him, he'd tell everyone. He said he'd make sure the world knew I killed her. Her words gutted me. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that it wasn't her fault, that Mum's death had been an accident no matter what. But the way she shook, the horror in her eyes, the shame carved into her face, I knew she'd carried this for years. Alone. And now Jason had turned it into a weapon. I sank onto the floor, burying my head in my hands. Oh, God. Claire reached for me. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to know. I couldn't. I looked up at her, tears blurring my vision. You should have told me. You've been carrying this letting him use it against you. I thought I deserved it, she whispered. After what happened, after what I did, I thought maybe Jason was right. That I needed to be punished. Those words shattered something inside me. I grabbed her shoulders, shaking my head fiercely. No, no, Claire. You don't deserve him. You don't deserve this. Her sobs broke into my chest as I pulled her into my arms. I held her like I had the night of Mom's funeral. Both of us broken. Both of us drowning in guilt. But this time was different. This time, there was a monster feeding on our pain. Jason. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. If the secret was the chain keeping her tied to him, then I'd break it myself. I'd take it out of his hands and put it in mine. But to do that, I'd have to confront him. I'd have to look into the eyes of the man who thought he owned my sister. And I'd have to make sure he never had the chance to use her shame against her again. The decision settled in my chest. Cold and sharp. Jason thought he had us cornered. But he had no idea what I was about to do. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, replaying Jason's words. Claire's confession. Mom's face the day she died. The guilt clawed at me, but beneath it grew something stronger rage. Jason wasn't just abusive. He was a parasite feeding on her deepest wound. And I knew parasites didn't stop on their own. They had to be cut out. By morning I had a plan. Pack a bag, I told Claire. Her swollen eyes flicked up at me. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. But first, I'm going to talk to him. Her face drained of color. Sam, no. Please. If you push him, he's already pushed too far, I snapped. Then, softer. I can't let him keep doing this to you. Her hands trembled. He'll hurt you. I swallowed hard. Not if I hurt him first. The look she gave me. It was the same one she'd given Mom years ago, when we were kids hiding under the stairs during a thunderstorm. Pure fear. But this time, I wasn't afraid of the storm outside. I was afraid of the one living in her house. I found Jason later that afternoon. He was at a bar on 7th Street, the kind of place where the jukebox drowned out everything else. His car was parked out front. He sat at the counter, laughing with the bartender, acting like nothing was wrong in the world. I slid onto the stool beside him. Sam, he said smoothly, like we were buddies catching up. Whiskey? I didn't smile. We need to talk. Jason studied me for a long moment, then grinned. Oh, I like this. You've got that protective brother energy. Go on then. Lecture me. Leave her, I said flatly. He chuckled, sipping his drink. That's cute. Really? But no. My jaw tightened. You're not giving me a choice. Jason leaned closer, his voice dropping low. You think you scare me? She doesn't leave because she knows what I know. And now you know too. So what's it gonna be, Sam? You gonna ruin your perfect little sister by outing her secret? Or let me keep her safe from herself? Safe. He actually said safe. I gripped the edge of the bar so hard I thought the wood might crack. You're a coward. Hiding behind her pain like it makes you powerful. His eyes flashed. Careful. You don't own her, I spat. He smirked. Don't I? She comes home when I call. She apologizes when I hit her. She keeps quiet about Mommy Dearest because I say so. That's ownership, Sam. You should try it sometime. Before I realized it, my fist slammed into his jaw. The crack of bone against bone echoed in the bar. He stumbled off the stool, blood on his lip, eyes wide with shock. Then he laughed. You finally showed your teeth, he said, wiping the blood with his thumb. I was waiting for this. The bartender shouted at us to get out. Jason didn't resist. He stepped into the alley, holding the door for me like it was a damn game. The moment it shut, his smile dropped. You think you can fight me? He hissed. I've been in her head for years. You're just now catching up. Pathetic. I stepped forward, ready to swing again, but he raised a finger. One punch in a bar, Sam. That's assault. Guess who'll back me up when I file charges? Claire. Because she's terrified of her secret coming out. Terrified of losing you. She'd do anything I say. I froze. He knew exactly where to hit. Not with fists. With words. Jason leaned close, whispering, You can't beat me. Not with the law. Not with fists. The only way you win is if you do something you can't come back from. You willing to live with that? He shoved past me, laughing as he limped toward his car. Didn't think so. I stood in that alley, chest heaving, fists shaking. He was right. Every legal path was blocked. Every appeal to reason twisted back into his control. The only way to end this was to end him. When I got back to the apartment, Claire was pacing. "What did you do?" She whispered. "Nothing," I said, though my bruised knuckles said otherwise. "Not yet." She grabbed my arms, her eyes wild. "Sam, promise me. Promise me you won't do anything that'll get you locked up. I can't lose you too." I looked at her, really looked at her thin, exhausted, broken down to a shadow of the sister I grew up with, and I realized something chilling. I couldn't promise that, because if it came down to Jason or her, I already knew which one I'd choose, and I'd choose it again. I started carrying a baseball bat in the trunk of my car. Not for sports. For Jason. Every night, I parked outside Claire's house, half hidden down the street. Watching. Waiting. I told her it was just to make sure she was safe, but really, it was because I couldn't bear not knowing. The days blurred together. Jason's routines became mine. I knew when he left for work, when he went to the bar, when he returned home. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of Claire through the blinds, always moving carefully, like she lived in a house made of glass. One wrong step, and it would shatter. Then one night, I saw something that snapped what little patience I had left. It was nearly midnight. Jason's car pulled up. He stumbled out, drunk, yelling at Claire before she even opened the door. I heard the shouting all the way from my car, muffled but sharp. Then I saw her silhouette in the doorway, shrinking as he advanced. His arm jerked. She fell back inside. I was out of my car before I could think. Sprinting up the driveway, I shoved the door open without knocking. Jason stood over her. His hand was raised. Her cheek was already red, swollen. "Hey!" I roared. He turned slowly, smirking when he saw me. Ah, the watchdog. I rushed him, shoving him hard against the wall. The picture frames rattled. My fist was inches from his face. "Touch her again," I growled, "and I swear you'll regret it." Jason didn't flinch. His eyes glinted with that same sick confidence. "Go ahead. Hit me. Make it easy. One more bruise and she'd testify against you instead of me." I froze. Claire was on the floor, trembling, her eyes darting between us. Jason leaned closer, whispering, "You can't save her, Sam. You'll only damn her." I wanted to smash his face into the drywall, but Claire's voice cut through the red haze. "Sam, don't," she whispered. I looked down at her shaking, broken, terrified of both of us now. My chest cracked open. I let go. Jason straightened his shirt casually, like we'd just shaken hands. "Good boy," he said softly. I wanted to kill him, but that night, something changed. After he went upstairs, Claire and I sat in silence on the couch. She held an ice pack to her cheek. "You can't keep doing this," I said quietly. Her voice was hollow. "And what choice do I have?" "You have me." She shook her head. "You don't get it. He has me. As long as he knows the truth, I'm his." I stared at her, at the bruise, at the hopelessness in her eyes, and I realized what I needed to do. "Then I'll take it from him," I whispered. Her head snapped up. "What do you mean? If the secret's what keeps him in control, then I'll carry it instead of him. I'll make it mine. He can't use it if I already know." She looked at me like I was insane. "Sam, if anyone ever finds out, I don't care." My voice was steady. "I won't let him weaponize Mom's death anymore. Not against you. Not against us." Tears spilled down her face. "But it was my fault." I grabbed her hands. "No, it was an accident. And you've punished yourself long enough. He doesn't get to be your executioner." For the first time, her sobs weren't just despair, they were release. She leaned into me, clutching my shirt like a lifeline. That was the night she finally told me everything. The rain, the shouting, her hand on the wheel, the sickening skid, the crash, the silence that followed. She confessed every detail, shaking and crying until the truth was out between us. And as heavy as it was, I felt something shift. The weight that Jason had held over her. It wasn't his anymore. It was ours. But even then, I knew he wouldn't stop. Secrets were just one of his weapons. Fear was the other, and fear doesn't fade overnight. A week later, I found the note on my windshield. Block letters scratched into the paper with violent strokes. You took what's mine. Now I'll take what's yours. My hand shook as I read it. For the first time, I believed him. He wasn't just going to keep Claire under his thumb. He was going to destroy me too. That night, I opened my trunk and pulled out the bat. But even as I held it, I knew wood wouldn't be enough anymore. Jason had crossed a line, and the only way to protect Claire now was to be willing to cross one too. I bought the gun 2 days later. I told myself it was just for protection, just in case Jason followed through on his threat. But the second my fingers closed around that cold steel, I knew it was more than defense. It was a choice waiting to be made. I hid it in my apartment at first, locked in a drawer. But every night, as I listened to the silence, my mind replayed Jason's smirk, his hands on Claire, his voice whispering about owning her. I'd pull the drawer open just to look at it, to feel its weight. Claire noticed the change in me. She always did. One evening, she showed up at my place, clutching her sweater like she was holding herself together. Sam, she whispered, eyes flicking to the drawer even before I touched it. What did you do? I didn't answer. She walked over, opened it, and froze when she saw the gun. Her face crumpled. No, Sam, no. He won't stop, I said flatly. You know that. You've seen it. He'll keep coming until... She shook her head violently. If you kill him, you'll lose everything. Your life, me. Mom wouldn't want this. I looked at her, really looked at her, the bruise still healing on her jaw, the shadows under her eyes, the way she jumped at every creak of the floor. Mom's not here, I whispered. But you are. And I won't lose you too. Her tears fell fast. She grabbed my hands, her voice breaking. Promise me you won't do this. I wanted to promise. God, I wanted to. But I couldn't. The lie wouldn't come. Instead, I pulled her close and held her while she cried. That night, after she left, I tucked the gun into my waistband and drove. Jason's car was parked outside his house. Lights on, music thumping faintly through the walls. I sat there for hours, engine off, watching, imagining every possible outcome. Him opening the door, me raising the gun, the sound, the silence after. But every time I reached for the handle, I saw Claire's face, the way she'd looked at me when she begged. I couldn't do it. Not yet. When I finally drove away, it felt like failure. The next day, Jason proved just how close I'd been to being too late. Claire called me at dawn, voice shaking. Sam, he knows. Knows what? My heart dropped. That I stayed at your place. He found a receipt in my bag. He went crazy. He said I was betraying him, sneaking around with you. Her voice cracked. He said if I leave again, he'll make sure everyone knows about Mom. He said he'll kill you. My blood ran cold. Where are you? In the bathroom. He's outside the door, pounding. I can't. The line cut. I didn't think. I just drove. By the time I reached her street, Jason's car was gone. Claire stood on the porch, shaking, her eyes wild. Her lip was bleeding. He left, she whispered. He said he's coming for you. I pulled her into my arms, holding her so tightly she gasped. Not if I get him first. She looked up at me, terror in her eyes. Sam, what are you going to do? I didn't answer, because I already knew. That night I waited, gun on the table, lights off. At 2 a.m., the sound came. A car pulling up outside my apartment. Doors slamming. Heavy footsteps. Then silence. My heart hammered as I moved to the window. Jason stood on the sidewalk, looking up at my window, his face lit by the street lamp. He was smiling. He raised his phone, pressed it to his ear. A moment later, mine buzzed. I answered. His voice was smooth, steady. You ready to finish this? I swallowed. What do you want? To prove what I've been saying all along. That I own you too. I gripped the gun, my knuckles white. Come down, he said. No cops, just you and me. Let's see if you've got the guts. My chest tightened. This was it. The moment everything tilted. Claire's voice echoed in my head. Promise me you won't do this. But Jason's laughter cut through it, sharp and cruel. And I knew I couldn't run anymore. I tucked the gun into my waistband, opened the door, and stepped into the night. Jason stood there, smirk still plastered on his face, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this. Attaboy, he said softly. Let's see what you're really made of. The night air was sharp, biting at my lungs as I stepped onto the sidewalk. Jason stood under the street lamp, arms spread wide like he was welcoming me to some twisted stage. His smile glinted with the kind of confidence that only comes from believing you've already won. Nice of you to finally show, he said. Thought you'd keep hiding behind your little sister forever. My hand brushed the grip of the gun hidden under my shirt. Heavy. Cold. My heart pounded so loud I thought he could hear it. Stay away from her, I growled. He chuckled. From Claire? You think you can give orders about her? I know every inch of her fear. I know what makes her flinch, what makes her obey. You've been blind your whole life. I clenched my fists. You don't know her. You only know how to break her. Jason's smirk widened. Breaking her is knowing her. You should thank me. I've shown her who she really is. The rage boiled over, but I forced myself to breathe. This ends tonight. Finally, he whispered, stepping closer. I was hoping you'd say that. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the silence stretching taut. Then he lunged. I barely sidestepped as his fist cut through the air. He swung again, wild but powerful. I shoved him back, adrenaline surging. He laughed, staggering but steadying himself. You've got fight in you after all, he taunted. He came at me again. This time I didn't dodge. His fist cracked against my jaw. Pain exploded across my face, but I didn't fall. I hit back hard, knuckles slamming into his ribs. He grunted, stumbling. The street was empty, silent but for the sounds of fists and ragged breathing. He grabbed my shirt, pulling me close, his voice hot against my ear. You're too weak, Sam. That's why Mom's dead. That's why Claire will always be mine. Something inside me snapped. I drove my fist into his stomach once, twice, until he doubled over. I shoved him against the hood of his car. My hand reached for the gun, but then I saw Claire. She was standing on the porch in her nightgown, eyes wide, hands pressed to her mouth. She'd come outside. She was watching, and suddenly, the weight of the gun felt unbearable. Jason laughed through his gasps, blood dripping from his mouth. Do it, he hissed. Right here, in front of her. Show her the monster you really are. I froze. The world narrowed to his smirk, the gun heavy in my hand, and Claire's terrified eyes. If I pulled the trigger, I'd prove him right. I'd become exactly what he wanted, a monster who dragged her deeper into the darkness. But if I didn't, he'd never stop. Jason straightened slowly, wiping his mouth. That's what I thought. You don't have the stomach for it. He glanced at Claire. But don't worry, sweetheart. He'll cave eventually. They always do. He started to walk away. Casual, like he hadn't just torn open everything inside us. I stood there trembling, gun still in my hand, every muscle screaming to end it. Sam, Claire whispered from the porch. Her voice was barely audible, but it cut through everything. Please. I lowered the gun. Jason looked back, grinning. Pathetic. He slid into his car and drove off, his laughter echoing down the street. The silence that followed was worse than any fight. Claire ran to me, grabbing my face, her tears falling fast. You didn't do it, she whispered. You didn't become him. But the truth was, I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to. And that scared me more than Jason ever could. That night, neither of us slept. She sat curled on the couch, trembling, while I paced the floor with the gun on the table between us. Every creak outside made us jump. When dawn broke, her voice was raw. "We can't live like this, Sam. He'll keep coming. He won't stop until one of us is dead." She was right, but I didn't know which of us it would be, and the thought that it could be her was enough to make my decision for me. If Jason came back, the next time, I wouldn't hesitate. The days that followed felt like we were trapped inside a ticking clock. Every second stretched too long. Every sound outside turned my blood cold. Jason hadn't called, hadn't shown up, but the silence was worse than his presence. It meant he was planning. Claire barely left my side. She stayed on my couch, jumpy, restless, her eyes darting to the window every few minutes. Sometimes, she'd whisper things under her breath, like she was trying to convince herself she was still here, still alive. On the fourth night, she woke up screaming. I ran to her, heart pounding, only to find her sitting upright, drenched in sweat. "He was here," she gasped. "I saw him at the window." I grabbed the bat from the corner and tore through the apartment. Every room, every closet. Nothing. But when I checked the back door, my stomach dropped. There were muddy boot prints on the step. Fresh. Jason had been here, watching. That night, I sat awake in the dark with the gun across my lap, waiting for him to return. He didn't, but knowing he could slip so close, right under my nose, made something inside me fracture. I wasn't just protecting Claire anymore. I was hunting. The next morning, I told her to pack her things. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice small. "The cabin," I said. She blinked. "The one by the lake?" I nodded. "He doesn't know about it. We'll be safe there." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if safety was possible anymore. We drove 3 hours north, silence filling the car. Claire stared out the window the whole time, her reflection pale in the glass. I kept my hand near the gun in the console, paranoid that Jason's car might appear in the rearview mirror. When we finally reached the cabin, it was quiet. Too quiet. The woods pressed close, dark and watchful. I carried our bags inside, checked every window, every lock. For the first time in weeks, Claire managed a faint smile. "It almost feels normal here." Almost. That night, I built a fire while she curled on the couch. For a while, it was like we were kids again, hiding out during a storm. Safe because we had each other. But then, just after midnight, the power flickered, then went out. The firelight sputtered, leaving us in shadows. Claire's breath hitched. "Sam." I grabbed the gun. My hands trembled, but my voice stayed steady. "Stay behind me." The floor creaked outside. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Then, his voice. Muffled, but close. "Claire." Her whole body went rigid. "I just want to talk," Jason called from the darkness. "Come on, baby. Let's not make this ugly." I raised the gun, pointing it at the door. "Leave, Jason. You step inside, you don't walk out again." Silence. Then laughter. "You don't scare me, Sam. You never did. You're just like her, weak. Afraid. I'm the only one strong enough to tell the truth." The footsteps circled the cabin. Claire whimpered, pressing herself against the wall. I tightened my grip, aiming at the sound. Then glass shattered. The window exploded inward. Jason's arm reached through, grasping for the lock. I fired. The shot roared in the small cabin. Jason screamed, yanking his arm back. Blood streaked the broken glass. Claire covered her ears, sobbing. "Oh my God." I moved to the door, heart racing. Silence. Then, the crunch of boots retreating into the woods. I didn't chase him. I just stood there, the gun shaking in my hands, the smell of smoke and gunpowder thick in the air. "He'll come back," Claire whispered. Her voice was hollow, broken. "I know," I said. And I meant it, because Jason wasn't gone. Not yet. And the next time, he wouldn't just try to scare us. He'd come to finish it. The silence after the gunshot stretched on forever. My ears rang, my chest heaved, and Claire's sobs were the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. I lowered the gun slowly, my arms heavy as stone. The fire flickered, shadows dancing across the walls like specters. I half expected Jason to charge back through the window, knife in hand, grinning like always. But he didn't. He was gone. For now. Claire crawled closer to me, her face pale and streaked with tears. "Sam," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What if you killed him?" I swallowed hard. "Then it's over." She shook her head. "No. He's not dead, you know he's not. He'll come back. He always comes back." And she was right. Jason was like a shadow, cut it down. It only stretches longer. I checked the door, shoved furniture in front of it, nailed a plank over the broken window. My hands moved on autopilot, building a barricade while my mind replayed his voice outside. I'm the only one strong enough to tell the truth. Claire sat on the couch, hugging herself. "Sam, what if he tells someone? About Mom?" I stopped hammering, looked at her. "Then let him." Her eyes widened. "You don't mean that." "Yes, I do." My voice cracked, but I kept going. "We've been living under his thumb because of that night. But it doesn't matter anymore. You were a kid. It was an accident. And if the world can't forgive that, then screw the world. I'm not letting him use it to control you." Her lip trembled. She opened her mouth, but before she could answer, another sound, this time from the back of the cabin. We froze. A slow scrape, like boots dragging across wood. I raised the gun again, every nerve screaming. "Sam," Claire whispered, gripping my arm. "Don't leave me." We moved together, inching toward the kitchen. The back door rattled. The knob twisted. Once. Twice. Then stopped. Silence. My breath came fast, shallow. My finger twitched on the trigger. Then nothing. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. The woods outside stayed quiet, suffocating in their stillness. Finally, I dared to exhale. "He's toying with us," I muttered. Claire's nails dug into my arm. "Why won't he just stop?" I didn't have an answer. We stayed awake until dawn, sitting side by side on the floor, the gun resting between us. Every time her head began to droop, she jerked upright, terrified of what might happen if she closed her eyes. When sunlight finally spilled through the trees, I dared to hope maybe he'd left. Maybe he was bleeding out somewhere, too weak to come back. But when I stepped outside, that hope shattered. On the porch, carved into the wood with something sharp, were words. "I'll take her from you like you took your mother from her." My stomach turned. Claire gasped behind me, covering her mouth. He wasn't just threatening anymore. He was rewriting our past, twisting the knife deeper into both of us. I wanted to scream, to hunt him down in those woods and finish it. But the forest stretched for miles, thick and endless. He could be anywhere, watching. I turned back to Claire. She was trembling, her eyes locked on the message. "Sam, I can't do this anymore." I grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet my eyes. "Listen to me. He wants you broken. He wants you afraid. But you're stronger than he thinks." Her tears fell fast. "I don't feel strong." "You don't have to. You just have to survive. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you do." But even as I said it, I knew survival wasn't enough anymore. Jason wasn't going to stop. Not until one of us was buried. That night, as the fire burned low and Claire finally drifted into a restless sleep, I sat alone with the gun across my knees. And I made my decision. The next time Jason showed his face, I wouldn't hesitate. There would be no warnings, no second chances, because I finally understood something I should have realized all along. This wasn't a fight we could win by hiding. This was a war, and wars don't end until one side is gone for good. The next day bled into another and another. Each hour dragged like a lifetime, every creak of the cabin making my pulse spike. Claire and I spoke less and less. Words felt fragile, useless against the weight of dread pressing down on us. By the fourth day, she was unraveling. She paced the floor, muttering under her breath, tugging at her sleeves until the skin turned raw. "He's out there," she whispered again and again. "He's watching. He's waiting." I tried to calm her, but the truth was I believed it too. I could feel Jason in the woods, just beyond sight, like a wolf circling, patient, hungry. That evening, I stepped outside to chop firewood. The air was cold, sharp in my lungs. For a moment, the simple rhythm of splitting logs dulled the noise in my head, until I noticed something nailed to a tree at the edge of the clearing. A photo. I dropped the axe, my stomach dropping with it. It was a picture of Claire, taken from outside the cabin window. She was sleeping on the couch, the blanket pulled to her chin. On the back, scrawled in the same jagged handwriting as before. Soon, my vision went red. I ripped the photo down and stormed back inside. Claire saw my face and froze. "What is it?" I didn't want to show her, but she grabbed it from my hand before I could stop her. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, clutching the photo like it was burning her. "He's inside already," she whispered. "We'll never stop him, never." I knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "No, listen to me. He wants us to believe that. He feeds on it. But this time, we're ready. Next time he steps foot inside, it ends." She looked at me with hollow eyes. "You mean you'll kill him?" I didn't answer. Her tears spilled. "Sam, if you do this, you'll be the one who's gone. Not him. Prison will take you from me, just like he wants." I wanted to believe her, wanted to think there was another way. But deep down, I knew the truth. The law couldn't cage Jason. Secrets couldn't silence him. Fear couldn't stop him. Only death could. That night, I set a trap. I placed a chair beneath the broken window, angled just right. Sprinkled broken glass across the floor where he'd step. Every creak of the cabin I memorized. Every shadow I tracked. Claire sat on the couch, arms wrapped around herself. She watched me work, her face pale, unreadable. "Do you even recognize yourself anymore?" she asked softly. I stopped, looked at her. The gun was heavy on my hip, the bat leaning against the wall, nails protruding from its head like teeth. "No," I admitted. "But maybe that's what it takes to end this." Her lips trembled, but she didn't argue. She just turned away, curling into the blanket. Around midnight, the storm hit. Rain hammered the roof. Wind rattled the windows. The woods outside roared with the sound of branches snapping. I sat in the dark, gun ready, every muscle coiled. Then I heard it, the scrape of boots against the porch. I motioned for Claire to stay silent. She pulled the blanket to her face, eyes wide. The doorknob turned slowly. Once, twice, then stopped. Silence. My breath caught. My finger tightened on the trigger. Glass shattered. The trap window. A body dropped inside, landing hard on the glass-littered floor. A muffled curse. Jason. He staggered upright, clutching his bleeding arm, his face twisted with fury. His eyes locked on Claire. "There you are," he growled. I stepped out from the shadows, gun raised. "It's over, Jason." He laughed, wild and broken. "No, Sam, it's just beginning." And then he lunged. Claire screamed. I fired. The shot tore through the cabin, deafening. Jason jerked back, blood blooming across his chest. But he didn't fall. He kept coming. The moment felt like it was stretched across eternity. Jason's body jerked from the impact, but his eyes, wild, unhinged, never left Claire. He staggered forward, blood soaking his shirt. A twisted smile smeared across his face. "You can't stop me," he rasped, voice wet and gurgling. "She's mine." I fired again. The second shot slammed into him, spinning him sideways. But somehow he kept moving. His hands clawed the air like he could still reach her, still drag her back into his hell. I dropped the gun, rage overtaking fear. I grabbed the bat, swinging with every ounce of strength I had. The nails ripped into him with a sickening thud. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, wheezing, eyes wide with shock. Claire was pressed against the wall, sobbing, her hands clamped over her mouth. Jason coughed, blood spilling from his lips. "You think you saved her?" He smiled weakly. "You just showed her what you really are." I raised the bat again. Claire's voice pierced through the roar in my head. "Sam, stop." For a moment I hesitated. My chest heaved, my arms trembling, Jason's blood dripping onto the floorboards. He looked up at me one last time, defiant even as his body gave out. His lips curled into that same mocking smirk that had haunted me since the first night I met him. Then his eyes rolled back. His body slumped forward. Still, the cabin went silent, except for Claire's sobs and my ragged breathing. I let the bat fall from my hands. It clattered against the blood-stained wood. Claire crawled toward me, her face pale, streaked with tears. She touched my arm gently, as if afraid I might break apart. "He's gone," she whispered. "It's over." But I wasn't sure it was, because as I looked down at Jason's body, all I felt was emptiness. We sat there until the fire burned low, the storm raging outside. Neither of us spoke. We couldn't. When dawn came, I called the sheriff. My voice was calm, too calm, as I told them a man had broken into our cabin, tried to attack us. But we defended ourselves. By the time the deputies arrived, the blood was sticky on the floorboards, the air thick with smoke and gunpowder. They asked questions, took photos, bagged the gun, but their faces told me everything. Self-defense. Open and shut. No charges. Jason's body was taken away. His car towed. His name written into a report that would never capture the terror he brought into our lives. When the sheriff left, Claire and I sat on the porch in silence. The woods were quiet again. Almost too quiet. For the first time in weeks, there was no shadow watching us. But there was no peace either. Claire leaned against me, her voice trembling. "Do you think Mom would hate me? For what happened, for all of this?" I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "No. She'd be proud you survived." That we survived. She didn't answer, just closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. That afternoon, we drove back into town. Life moved on around us, people buying groceries, kids riding bikes, neighbors mowing lawns. Normalcy felt foreign, almost cruel. At my apartment, Claire stood in the doorway, staring at the street. "Do you think we'll ever feel safe again?" she asked. I wanted to lie, to tell her yes, but the truth weighed heavier than the gun ever had. "I don't know," I admitted. She nodded slowly, like she already knew the answer. Weeks passed. The news called it a tragic case of domestic violence ending in self-defense. Jason was painted as a troubled man, Claire as a survivor, me as the protective brother who did what needed to be done. But the headlines didn't tell the whole story. They didn't mention the secret that had chained her to him. They didn't mention the darkness he dragged out of me. At night, I still heard his voice. "You just showed her what you really are." Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't the brother I used to be. Maybe I wasn't the son Mom remembered. Maybe I was something else now, something forged in fear, sharpened by rage. But when I looked at Claire, alive, breathing, free, I knew one thing with certainty. I'd make that choice again, every time, because in the end, survival changes everyone. And that night in the cabin was the night I finally saw not just Jason's true nature, but my own.